Hi, you're on the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Love for you to be in a chat room with us. What do your children, what is it your children do not know about life and about this great nation of ours? Dr. Larry Arnn is the 12th president of Hillsdale College. He writes about a Trump initiative he attended last September, a panel discussion to identify what went wrong in the teaching of American history and how we can recover that truth. It was called to counter the New York Times effort in promoting the idea that slavery, not freedom, is the defining act of American history. Dr. Arnn goes on to relate how he taught a course last fall on totalitarian novels. The class was required to read 4 books: George Orwell's 1984, Arthur Koestler's Darkness at Noon, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and C.S. Lewis's That Hideous Strength. Now, the word totalitarian did not exist before the 20th century. The older word for the worst possible form of government was tyranny. Aristotle defined this as, quote, the rule of one person or of a small group of people in their own interests and according to their own will. Totalitarianism did not exist in Aristotle's day. It only became possible after the emergence of modern science and technology. And what's interesting and also scary is the evolution from technology, we make things, to modern science, which is not so much seeking to know as to build. Ultimately, to remake nature itself, including human nature. This effort emboldens both human beings and governments. That spirit of remaking nature, including human nature and governments, reaches farther than does tyranny. Tyranny is an effort to control the totality of things. Modern science seeks to control people and things. Orwell's 1984, a book, a movie, seems far-fetched until you see what China is doing. Cameras are everywhere. People are not simply being watched, they're being rated. Rated according to their beliefs and according to their behaviors. Algorithms are run with experiments to assign each individual a social score. If you don't act or think in the politically correct way, things happen to you. You can lose your ability to travel. You can lose your job, or worse. There are efforts underway to find ways to use all this information to manipulate people's thoughts and decisions. In Orwell's book, movie, 1984, the main character, Winston Smith, is assigned the job of rewriting history. He sits at a table in front of a telescreen, didn't have television in those days, that watches everything he does. Part of his job is to watch history unfolding and to make certain that if, for example, a nation is at war and loses, that all record of that nation is consigned to the memory hole. Winston believes all that information is then destroyed. Of course, it's not. He is also responsible to fix every book, periodical, newspaper, and so forth that reveals or refers to what used to be the truth. Everything must conform to the new truth. Any of this sound familiar to you? One of Winston's first tasks was to learn doublethink, a way of thinking that defies the law of contradictions. Aristotle maintained that the law of contradiction is the basis of all reasoning. It's the law that gives sense to the world. It's the law that says X cannot be Y at the same time. Today, this would mean a governor could not simultaneously hold that the COVID pandemic renders church services too dangerous, but does allow massive protest marches. It would preclude a man from declaring himself a woman, or a woman from declaring herself a man, as if gender is simply a matter of what one wills themselves to be. The law of contradiction also means we cannot change the past. Of course, we all know of truth. What we know of truth always resides in the past. The present is fleeting and confusing. Tomorrow has yet to come. But the past is locked into time and space. It's what it was, and it cannot be anything more. Enter modern education, a system whereby the past is selectively revealed to children who know nothing about it. For example, who is Thomas Jefferson? The answer is one of our most cherished founders. What are children learning about him today? That he was a founding father and he had slaves. And that's about it. They don't learn that when the American West was open for settlers, that slavery was strictly forbidden. They don't learn that the land in that territory was ceded to Virginia, or that it was on a motion of Thomas Jefferson that the condition of the gift was that slavery in that land be eternally forbidden. All children now know, in the last 50 years or so, is that Jefferson had slaves. They don't know that upon his death, his slaves were set free. Well, why not before? Because Jefferson, like so many others, felt a sense of responsibility for these people who never had the opportunity to be integrated into our society. Why? Because the South was slave country, right up into the 20th century. Now, people didn't own slaves that long, but they still treated the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren of slaves, as though they were less than human. Not all, but enough of them. Today, our young people do not get a proper education in that they do not really know what made this nation great. They are being deprived of a spirit of freedom that could eventually deprive us of our humanity itself. Dr. Arnn, he writes, this must be stopped. You want to take any bet on it?